first right off the bat, 7 a.m. No, I'm just kidding. When you kind of look at spring ball, kind of going to be the same system as you guys kind of had last year and with fall camp, just in the same strategies and same kind of procedure and running practice?
Yeah, it'll be, rinse and repeat a little bit. One of the biggest things that we want to focus on is how we finish practice, so we added a competitive one-on-one, non-scripted, going to kind of change and move that around every day and what we're going to call our focus finish, right? And just with an emphasis, Jamie, on no matter what happened previously in that practice, good, bad, indifferent, mistakes, celebrations, whatever it is, we need to be right here, right now to finish that last 5 minutes, right? So we're tagging that focus finish, and it's going to be something where, we got to do a better job. In our last 4 games, it was Cougs 0, everybody else 49. And that's a number that our guys know and understand. And we're excited about working on our finish because I thought we did a great job on that first half, and we need to nail down and stay aggressive and finish games. So we're going to emulate that in practice, but the style and how we do it, the tempo of how we do it, and the transition of how we do it will be the same that you've seen in the past.
Talk about some of your newcomers a little bit, some of the transfers, some of the early enrollees, the JC transfers. What have you kind of seen from these guys and they're immersing into the culture and kind of their play in winter workouts and what they're going to bring to the field?
Well, I think I'd be remiss, Jamie, if I didn't mention Ben Anacchione and our strength staff first and foremost. We just got done with a tremendous, what I call winter camp, and that's 8 weeks of strength and conditioning and culture and training and effort and strain and toughness. I think our strength and conditioning coaches put together an amazing plan and just really aligned with the culture of our team. And for those young guys and newcomers really to come in and assimilate into the team and into the culture and into our way of doing it the way we have, I think has been pretty special, and guys that really, stand off. I mean, so far we've seen them training, we've seen them in drills, we've seen them kind of running around a little bit. It'll be really good this week, obviously, to get the pads back on and see the football piece of that, but everything we do starts up front, right? So the big additions of Christy and Essa, I'm just excited for what they're going to bring, and another guy like Rod Telavea, Rod's got to be like getting a newcomer or a transfer, right? So those 3 big bodies added into our offensive line. I will say this, Jamie, out of our whole team, I think our offensive line has taken the biggest step forward in confidence. Okay. You can hear it through their communication, their confidence, their moving. It's something each and every day where, even Nakia just through conversation was talking about that group, and just listening to them talk, you just feel like they've taken another step. Now we need to take that to the field, but really excited about that. I think the second thing that jumps off the table with the newcomers is we feel like we're more athletic at wide receiver. Josh Kelly has had an amazing 8 weeks. I'm really excited to see him get out there. Kyle Williams and his ability to stretch the field, DT Sheffield in the slot, Carlos Hernandez, an early enrollee. I mean, there's a litany of guys at wide receiver because I think it's going to be one of our most competitive positions. When you don't go into a certain time, hey, this is the guy, and you have a bunch of guys vying for their role and their piece of what I believe is going to be an explosive offense, I think that's a great place to be, and then tight end, he's not a newcomer, but Andre Dollar has really proven, this being his second spring, that development, that ceiling, and the guy that we thought he can be. He's been healthy this whole 8 weeks, and he's really developed, really beyond measure, and we're excited to kind of see him take that to the field. Defensively, Ansel Dinmu, early enrollee, has been as advertised. We're excited with his explosiveness. Combine that with Rashad McKenzie and David Gusta's growth in there. We feel like we've gotten more athletic and more playmaking ability in the interior of our defensive line, and we're kind of sorting out where we're going to be at linebacker. We're excited for those guys' progress. And I firmly believe Jaden Hicks and Shaw Smith-Wade are elite performers in our league. And I think they've proven that. They put in that work, and just excited to see them elevate their game, their leadership, and their playmaking on the back end of our defense.
You mentioned Carlos Hernandez, and just real quick, is he going to slot outside? Not sure yet.
A little bit of both. We're going to put a little bit of a swing tag on him, but be ready, Jamie, for him to be in that Leighton Smithson, let's play him now role. Whether it's obviously finding a niche on offense, it's going to be a great special team player. He's one that's going to swing. One of the few guys that are going to swing, by the way. I think we put a little bit too much stress on some of those guys playing outside and inside in previous years. So to have the ability to lock those guys in, I think will be important, but you'll see Carlos doing both, and I'm excited for what he's about to do.
Any position changes, guys, moving around, even if it's just like from maybe corner to nickel to safety, or any big ones?
Janias will move to defensive tackle, a move that we've kind of been working towards getting there. Excited for him to kind of go there and see that. Kind of looking through the roster, Chris Jackson will move to a nickel position from corner. That'll be a big one to have to find who's going to replace Armani Marsh is going to be a big deal. Kapena Gushikin has come in, and through our 10-yard split, I think before he left for spring break, went a 1.42. He's the fastest accelerator on our team. So excited about what he can do there. But Chris will move over. David Johnson will move to free safety. Excited for David's growth and his athleticism coming off his ACL last season. So there'll be some guys that are ready to compete. And, Christian Hilborn right away will start at tackle. And we'll see kind of where that progresses and where that offensive line goes. So we want to lock Make into guard. I think that was something that was challenging last season, putting that strain on him, and locking him back at guard, getting him confident, getting him playing aggressive will be a big deal for our offensive line.
Assuming Connor pretty safe to lock in there at center.
Yep.
You talk about guys like Essa and Lely and Rod, and you kind of get into those guys. Are they locked in at one spot, or in terms of tackle versus guard, or are they kind of moving around too?
No, like I say, we want to do a lot less of that, especially like infiltrating a lot of these young pieces now. This time last year we didn't have the Zach Miller and the Roten twins and the Kendall Williams and Jacobus Sess. So, that's why I said we got a plethora of interior guys that we'll work through. But we want to leave Lely at right tackle. That's where he's very comfortable with. So Christian and Essa will play left tackle. That'll be an important spot to, lock down. Obviously, Zach Miller and Luke Roten on their growth at those tackle positions. And then you'll see a wide variety of combinations on the interior, and Devin Claney has done a really good job at the backup center position. And we got to find one of those young guys that can be a center down the road. So we want to lock in those guys as much as possible. And if we can stay healthy as we go throughout the course of spring, that's kind of where we want to stay locked into.
Obviously you've got these positions to kind of figure out, and starters and backups and so on. Is it easy at all to kind of look at edge, say, all right, RJ, BJ, you got the young guys behind them, check, next position?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is that, I'm very much into the analytics. I think RJ has played over 2,000 snaps in his career. I think BJ's up to over 1,600. So when you get to this point in spring ball, it's polishing, and it's getting some new things that we're going to have them do, get those techniques and rules down. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of individual stuff, and it's a lot of polishing. Where we want those two to grow at is pass rushing, and then the Rand Stevensons of the world, who I feel like he's had his best offseason and is really back to being that guy that we know that he can be. And Eddie and Lawrence and, some of those other guys that at that position, Quinn's another guy that's had a lot of snaps. So, excited about getting those young guys the reps that they need to make sure that they're ready for the season.
You talk about some of these young guys, and who are maybe a few young guys for fans to kind of watch, that maybe not guys that have played, so not your Leighton Smithsons, but guys who have kind of haven't played yet, but you think are going to be in store for a big spring.
I mean, it's a really good question. I mean, Orion Peters, I don't think he's a guy that needs to take a step forward in his game and has all the tools. And I think his confidence is growing, and I think people have seen Orion out there, but he's ready for a mainstay role. Zion Nunley, the talent is there. The consistency is what we're working towards, but I'm a big believer in Zion and what he can do to stretch the field. Those are guys that need to now, as you're getting into another spring, this is the time that you really grow and mature and have the ability to go out there and get some things done. I think a name to keep track of on the interior offensive line is Kendall Williams. He was out early with an injury, last fall camp. But he's had a tremendous offseason, and he's physical, he's aggressive, he's got great size, and he's got great feet. So to go out there, he's going to get a lot of scrimmage reps to see, what he can do. And, on the defensive side of the ball, like I said, the Ansel Dimbu, I'm just excited about what he has shown so far and his aggressiveness at defensive tackle, to work his way into a rotation there, I think will be huge. Rashad McKenzie, I already mentioned, I think he'll be a mainstay there. And then, I'm a believer in just letting this thing all sort out. I think Buddha at linebacker, Tariq has had a really good winter camp, and excited about if he can get into that rotation. Ahmad and Devin, I think, done a good job transferring in. And the other big one I would probably point out would be Hudson Cedarland. He's another guy, that has put in the work, looks the part, and excited to get him back out there for his second spring. And every day just really take big strides forward to get him in that linebacker rotation.
Jamie, hold on 1 second. Just a reminder, if you have a question, hit the raise hand button on your computer and we'll take you. Jamie, go ahead.
All right, still going. Any kind of lingering injuries? Any guys that are going to be kind of on pitch counts to start?
No, I mean, we've been as healthy, Jamie, knock on wood, as I've been since I've been here, kind of coming into it. We're going to progress Rod back in. He probably won't be in team reps, until we feel really comfortable about his knee, but he will for sure be out there, by the time we get to that first scrimmage, really getting team reps. Johnny Lester, Quinn and the RJs and BJs and, some of those guys of the world. But for the most part, we feel very confident with where we're at, physically coming into spring.
How have you kind of seen the relationship between Cam and Coach Arbuckle kind of develop so far?
I would say this, one of the biggest things I think we've been talking about as a coaching staff is Cam's maturity level and how much it has taken a great step forward. And that's huge for his future. It's huge for our team, and it's huge for the leadership of what is needed at the quarterback position, and it's very vocal and it's very example driven. And, I think that's a great relationship that those two are forming. I'm not going to say it's exactly where it needs to be now as we're getting into spring ball. What I love about Coach Arbuckle, he sets the standard of expectation, and he's out there to challenge Cam each and every day, from the meeting room to the field to watching film. I mean, I just think there's a progression, and what I love about Cam is he's going through a lot of new things, right? Some new footwork, some new ways of, making sure his feet and arm and in sync, some new progressions. And I think he's just taking everything, head on. And I think he knows the vision of where he wants to be, and how these little changes and increments are going to help him in his future, and more importantly, create success for this season. So I think it's an important relationship that's still growing. And as we go through the kind of wars of practice, and I think that's when you really kind of formulate those relationships. And I'm looking forward to those guys doing that and working together.
Have there been any guys through kind of the winter and the offseason who've maybe had kind of significant jumps or drops in weights, whether it be muscle or kind of, reshaping their body to get to a different size that you guys wanted them at?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this early on. I just think Christian Hilborn's mentality is changed. And, he's taken this last 8 weeks with just a focus of how good he can be. And I've told Christian that a million times over. And I think he's one of those guys that has really, jumped off the table, and isn't a weight change, it's a weight distribution, right? Is redistributing these guys. And I could bring our weight room stats in here, Jamie, and there's been more guys that have added 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds on their max and bents and squats. And it's just been really impressive for what these guys have done, because everything you want to change starts in that weight room, right? You want to be faster, you want to jump higher, you want to be more explosive. You got to add strength and explosive power. And I think that was the focus of our training in our off season. And we put them through some tough tests, right? Some things that really were a gut check, and learned a lot about ourselves and our team and the trust that it takes. So there's a lot of guys that I think are bigger, they're faster, they're more confident. And without kind of going through exact numbers, I just think as a whole, I'm just really happy with where our team's at.
And then last thing for you, the plan to have kind of more of the normal spring game, with more than 9 offensive linemen at your disposal this year.
That's the plan, and we're 14 practices away from getting there. So I'm hoping to get to that point where we can play, a true game, have 2 different sides, draft teams, all that type of stuff, coaches, 2 different head coaches, all that stuff. So we'll work towards that. It'll be a kind of a work in progress as we get there, but the plan is to do the spring game in a very competitive fashion.
Once again, if you have any questions, please raise your hand and we will call on you. All right, Jamie, any final questions?
7 a.m.
7 a.m. Jamie, it's good. We're actually pre-practice will be at 6:30 if you want to check out pre-practice, but it'll be good. I know one thing I do want to mention, Jamie, just at the very end, you asked about kind of personnel changes. We brought in Isaiah Paul, and we were very excited about him and what he could do for our team. But due to a medical situation, he's not going to be available to play here at Washington State. So we wish him the best of luck, but we just weren't clear and confident in our medical approach for it. And that's kind of where we're going to leave that and move on and wish him best in his future.